Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Liverpool, and the run continues. Another fantastic away win for Liverpool, this time away at White Hart Lane, or the new White Hart Lane, I think that's what it's called, at Tottenham. Our first time visiting that stadium, because I think we played them just at White Hart Lane, or at Wembley, last season before they moved in. So that was interesting for us to play at a new stadium as well. But a positive result for us, a 1-0 away win, exactly what you could ask for against a very good team with a very good manager, even though they were missing, some players. I think Sissoko and Kane were the two kind of big players missing from them. However, the job still needed to be done, and we did it expertly, with minimal fuss. There was a little bit of fuss, but we'll come on to that a little later in the episode. But so Oxlade-Chamberlain came into the starting lineup for this game. That was kind of the only change from the Sheffield United game, with James Milner obviously being injured against Everton in the FA Cup, and Naby Keita kind of coming out of the game against Sheffield United just before the game in the warm-up with an injury, but hasn't really regained his fitness yet, which is kind of a bit of a shame. I think Naby Keita's you can, when you see him play, you can see like all he needs is a good extended run in the team, but every time he gets in the team and looks like he's about to get going, he gets injured. And it will be interesting to see, how long. Obviously, I think we will be keeping him for at least the duration of his contract, which I still believe is a couple of years long. But I just don't know whether he's going to be the long-term success at Liverpool, like many of us, including me, thought he would maybe when we signed him. But anyway, so Oxlade-Chamberlain did start in the midfield. Obviously, that gives us a bit more dynamic way of playing in terms of going forward. But also, he's a hard worker as well in terms of the defensive side of the game. A bit more lavish and a bit more attacking than maybe like a James Milner. But we don't really have too many other options in midfield. Obviously, Lallana played the full 90 last week in a very tough game against Everton. So it was good to see Oxlade-Chamberlain in the team. Minamino as well, obviously making his first substitute bench in the Premier League for us. Didn't come on, I think, in the second half. We'll touch on the second half a little later in this episode, but it wasn't the right type of second half to introduce a new player. He may have found it a bit maybe overpowering. The game just got a little bit out of hand towards the end of the game, not in terms of like discipline or anything, but just in terms of we didn't have the control that we would have maybe wanted. Would have been a good time and place to introduce Minamino, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of occasions for him to both come on as a sub but also start. But the first half was very much kind of Liverpool playing at close to our very best, I say. And the reason I say that is we just dominated the ball. We were passing around. I think the possession stats had us over 70% of possession, which away from home is not something you'd expect, particularly against a Tottenham team that are trying, even though they're not there at the moment, trying for those top four positions. And as the half wore on, kind of the pressure built. And I think Tottenham did pretty well at dispelling us. They were almost at times playing like a back five, even maybe like a back six, when Danny Rose and kind of Son came back even as a kind of a pseudo left back to stop Trent. But obviously when a team plays like that, it's very difficult to break them down. And so I think what we did really well in the first half was we were patient. We didn't really force anything. We created chances. There was a chance from Firmino like 5 minutes into the game, which I think was probably just a little too early. I think maybe he wasn't kind of just there mentally or whatever, or his finishing boots hadn't warmed up by that point. But the pressure did eventually tell towards the 30-ish minutes when there was a throw in from the left from Andy Robertson, and Firmino kind of missed it, and then Jordan Henderson very bravely just stuck his head there and against Dele Alli, getting his header into Mo Salah with his back to goal. And Mo Salah was able to just nicely shift the ball to the left, and Firmino was able to open his body in such a way that the defender kind of dived in and missed the ball, and then Firmino was able to control it beautifully with his left foot, and then with his next touch fire it past Gazaniga to make it 1-0. And we went into half-time all positive. I think Jurgen Klopp definitely would have been the happier manager going in at half-time. We dominated the game. We obviously had the goal as well. Tottenham hadn't really created anything. There were a couple of yellow cards. I think Joe Gomez got a yellow card just from a bit of eagerness in trying to take down Son and Mora on the break, and that was pretty much all Tottenham really had. That's the only way they really looked threatening, was on the break. But second half was quite different, and I'd say probably Jose Mourinho probably would be the one that was happier with the second half than Jurgen Klopp would be. And I think in the second half we were kind of our own worst enemy. I was watching in the UK here the Sky Sports analysis after the game, and they were kind of talking about how the players maybe could have even got a little bit bored, and I completely agree with that. Like, we were controlling the game, we were passing it back, they weren't really closing us down, getting really tight to us, and I think that we kind of just got into a bit of I want to say complacency, but I think we just maybe switched off or let off that tiny bit, and then we started making a few mistakes, which luckily for us this time didn't lead to any goals conceded. We were lucky. I think they had two chances. Like Son had a chance which he blazed over the bar, and then I think the Lo Celso chance was the one where he kind of, I'm not sure how he missed. It almost looked like it was harder to miss from that angle than score, but he did miss anyways. And I think we rode our luck a little bit. But I think, in the end, when you look at the whole game, you look at the stats and everything like that, we did dominate the game. But as I was saying earlier, all of those chances that Spurs created were most of them were down to, our own making. We were giving the ball away or just holding on to the ball that little bit too longer. I think Henderson and Wijnaldum both got caught on that today, where they kind of took one touch and should have played the pass, but they took 2 or 3 touches, and that's when the likes of Son, Mora, Winks, and then that's when they started pressing onto us, and that's how they won the ball. So I guess just keeping the ball moving, recycling the ball a little quicker would have stopped that, but nevertheless we saw the game through. Alisson obviously made some good saves as well, but for me, the one player there's one player I guess I want to call out in this game, in terms of in a positive way, and that is Roberto Firmino. He's obviously had a pretty good December with the goals out in Qatar and then against Leicester as well. And for me, in this Tottenham game, he was first class. Like, he was just imperious. Like, particularly in that first half, that performance of his in the first half, where right at the beginning he had that chance where he was running off the midfielders and the defenders, running in behind, coming in short. And linking up the play, getting the ball, and letting Wijnaldum and Henderson Wijnaldum and Oxlade-Chamberlain, get further ahead. I think everything he did was just absolutely fantastic in the first half. It kind of tailed off a little bit in the second half, but then he showed us the other part of his game where he was working hard, closing the ball down, getting interceptions, and I think for me he was man of the match. And I think if I think back to a lot of the things that Liverpool fans were fearing and pundits and things were saying after we sold Coutinho was around that creative spark and element to our team. And our midfield is a kind of a hard-working engine rather than a flair creative midfield. And there was always that kind of fear that maybe we would score less. And actually, I'm sure if you look at our scoring figures, I don't know the stats off by heart, but we probably scored more goals since Coutinho left than when he was still here. And I think a big reason of that is because of the way Bobby Firmino plays. Like, he can be that centre forward, but then at the same time he can also drop into that kind of number 10 or false 9 role, and then link up with Salah, Mane, and any of the midfielders bombing on past him. And I think that's one of the fears that I guess we had when Coutinho left just hasn't been talked about since, because of the role of Firmino. And I think the Tottenham game was a great example of, like, one, why he is so important to our team, but two, that he's kind of filled that creative playmaker role within our team, and he's a striker and he scores. So, like, he ticks so many boxes, and yeah, just there aren't enough superlatives for me to give Firmino. He gets an 11 out of 10 rating from me in this episode. Let me know who your favourite player was from the Tottenham game. Get in touch. I think my Twitter and Instagram are in the description, so let me know who your favourite player was. Gini Wijnaldum also got a shout out, and Alisson on Sky here in the UK for their performances as well. But I think the shout out to Klopp for this episode will be around management of games. I've spoken about management of games in the past, and it's something we have night and day got better at. However, the second half was an example, and it's probably a good thing that happens to us where we are kept on our toes a little bit. It just means we know we need to keep improving and we can do things better. It's not that everything just went swimmingly well and we just kind of got maybe get a bit complacent. I think maybe it's a good thing to kind of make a few mistakes, but luckily it not cost us. However, I think between now and the end of the season, both in the Premier League, and even in the Champions League, there will be tight games, 0-0 games, games where we're winning 1-0 or whatever, and we'll have to defend, and we will have to, keep that concentration up. We may be under the cosh, particularly in the Champions League against some of the better teams if we progress, to the quarters and the semi-finals. And I think it's just something that I'm sure Klopp is speaking to the players about and they're working on, but it's just about, taking that one touch then pass, but keeping the ball moving quickly, so that we're not giving not giving the opposition the chance to nick the ball away high up the pitch for them. And also for us, it keeps that kind of momentum ticking forward for us as well. And when we get that momentum going, we are, we're really, really dangerous, and we always look like we can go on and score, 2-3 goals. So that's really positive when we do play like that. But there will be some squeaky bum time between now and the end of the season. I don't think any Liverpool fan will tell you that we don't expect that, but it's just to focus on those things in those times. But next up for us is United. At home, obviously, our only draw of the season so far came away at Old Trafford, and obviously United have played better against the bigger teams this season than they have against the lower ranked teams. So it should be an interesting challenge. Obviously, Liverpool Manchester United is always a big game, regardless of where the teams are in the league and things like that. But for us, the MO and the target is very clear. Another 3 points at home at Anfield. Obviously, the crowd will be up for it. It's a Sunday afternoon kickoff. It should be a great one. So make sure you tune in for that, and then make sure you tune in for the Let's Talk Liverpool podcast after that. I'm sure it will be a good one. But get in touch, guys, if you want to see a preview of that game. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode anyway, and I'll catch you on the next one.